Stop. Everything. Deep within the foundational text of the Bible, the book of Genesis is a secret so strange, so controversial it changed the course of human history. We are talking about fallen angels, human women, and the race of giants they created. The Nephilim. This is the untold story of Genesis chapter 6. This single passage in Genesis is the most debated of all. Let's read the lines from Genesis that sparked 1,000 arguments. Genesis 6-4. Niv says, "The Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterward when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown." This short passage in Genesis packs an incredible punch. The entire mystery of Genesis rests on 3 words: sons of God. Who are they? Theologians have argued about this part of Genesis for 2 millennia, but there are 3 main theories. Theory 1 says they were fallen angels. The phrase Bena Elohim in Genesis often refers to celestial beings, like in Job 1-6. This is the most dramatic interpretation of Genesis. Theory 2 says they were powerful, tyrannical rulers who oppressed humanity, as described in this early part of Genesis. Theory 3 argues they were the godly line of Seth intermarrying with the wicked line of Cain. This is where the debate in Genesis truly begins. Okay, so we have fallen angels, evil kings, and interlineage marriage, all within the context of Genesis. I need your opinion right now. Which of these 3 theories about Genesis do you believe is the truth? Comment, angel, king, or Seth below, and let's see which theory of Genesis dominates. Now for the offspring, the Nephilim. The word itself, from the Hebrew nfal, means to fall. So, they are literally the fallen ones. This is crucial to understanding the context of Genesis. Were they morally fallen? Were they physically fallen? We can't be sure from Genesis alone, but Genesis describes them as heroes of old, men of renown. This suggests they were figures of legendary strength and power. The book of Genesis is setting the stage for disaster. Their existence is the culmination of wickedness that forces God's hand in Genesis. They were superhumans, products of a forbidden union that corrupted the world described in Genesis. Why is this passage in Genesis chapter 6 placed right before the flood? Because the corruption of the Nephilim was part of the final straw. Genesis 6-5 immediately follows, stating, "The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth." Nephilim scandal in Genesis wasn't the only sin, but it represented a deep, fundamental corruption of the created order established in Genesis chapter 1. The line between the supernatural and the human, established by God in Genesis, was being violently blurred. The purity required by Genesis was gone. But here's the biggest puzzle of all. From Genesis, the flood, according to Genesis, wiped out all life outside the ark. So how does the Bible mention Nephilim again later? Genesis 6:4 states they were on the earth and also afterward. Later, in Numbers 13:33, the spies report seeing the descendants of the Nephilim. I want to know, how do you think the Nephilim survived or reappeared after the great flood of Genesis? Comment survivor or rebirth below. Beyond the giants and angels, Genesis chapter 6 has a deep theological lesson. It shows God's commitment to preserving the pure human line to line, through which the Messiah would eventually come. The Nephilim were a threat to humanity itself. They were a demonic attempt to corrupt the seed that began in Genesis chapter 3. The Genesis story is fundamentally about a war for the human soul. Starting with the first pages of Genesis, God's judgment in Genesis was severe, but necessary to protect the future of humanity. The very foundation of faith is rooted in this moment of Genesis. Why should this passage in Genesis matter to us today? Because it reminds us that there is a spiritual world we don't see. The battle lines drawn in Genesis are still being fought. The desire for unlawful power, the blending of the divine and the secular, as a constant temptation that began with the Nephilim in Genesis. The early lessons of Genesis are eternal. We must learn from this history in Genesis. The book of Genesis is a constant warning. The mystery of the Nephilim from Genesis will continue to be debated. If this deep dive into Genesis gave you a new perspective, please like this video. Subscribe for more biblical explorations and share this deep truth from Genesis with someone who loves a mystery. Don't miss the next video in our series on Genesis. 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 Genesis.